Well, hello, everybody. David G here. David Gerlitz, former Winston man, also David G, modelcitizen.com. Here we are with episode, I believe, number 9. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve.
8.
Yeah, well, I'm one week ahead of myself. I'm feeling really good for my surgery. Just so everybody who does know a little bit about what happened, I had some major surgery 3 weeks ago, and I'm doing really, really well. Up and running. A couple little limitations, but not too bad. Heading down to Richmond, Virginia for the National Vape Expo on Friday to see a lot of my friends and a lot of my non-friends because they're everywhere. You know,
Got a few of those.
Got a few of them. Kevin, how are you, buddy?
Yes, sir. I'm present and accounted for again.
Okay, and I won't be able to see you until Kentucky when we go to the expo there in Bowling Green, and that's in September, I guess, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
September 8th and 9th, I think.
Oh, I can't. I don't know what I did this morning. But I'll be able to see my buddy Kevin Crowley in person live. And Steve Mathis, good to have you here tonight. Thanks for putting all this together as usual. Thank you to Pinnacle CBD for sponsoring me and allowing me to carry some of the most awesome CBD flavors on the market, the full spectrum. We're going to talk about CBD tonight. We're going to talk about the differences of what's going to be full spectrum versus isolates, but I'm not going to get into it because next week, gang, we're going to have my partner in crime with Pinnacle CBD, Kevin Lacey, and his wonderful, beautiful wife, Jessica, who's going to be explaining all of the wonderful benefits that we can derive from CBD, especially when it's full spectrum. And he's the expert. He's the one I work with, and he's one to help me develop these wonderful flavors for people who want to get better and enhance the quality of their life. And as a reminder, it's not for everybody who smokes to use CBD. It's not, all CBD users are not vapors or smokers. It's just a wonderful product to help enhance the quality of your life. But to make it a double whammy, if you are quitting smoking and you're just starting to vape and you're learning that you probably aren't healthy in other areas of your life, CBD is probably one of the best protocols that you can now add to your regimen to get back into the swing of things and start feeling better. I have to tell you this. I had surgery 3 weeks ago, and I haven't had one pain pill after the second day. I mentioned this last week on my show. 2 days after my surgery, I was done with all pain meds, all opiates, all pharmaceutical narcotics, and I just did my CBD under the tongue. I used some of my own flavors. I used some of the natural flavors, which are a little bit bitter for some people who don't really have a palate for it. That's why the flavors that I have will make it palatable, and you'll see the benefits and you'll enjoy it. But the real wonderful opportunity is with CBD. I've learned quickly what CBD is. Of course, it's not used to get you high. I know where it comes from. You really can't overdose. And I found the best method for me to use, and that's what we're going to share. But I'm not here to sell CBD tonight. I'm just here to tell you how wonderful the opportunity is that I have now partnered, and they brought me into their fold, Kevin Lacey and Jessica Lacey from Pinnacle CBD, and they are sponsors of my show, along with VapesGoneWild, Trent Struck, and Vicious Vic, who are helping me sell my e-liquids for people who are quitting smoking and they're transitioning to vaping with a very, very solid e-liquid that's just for beginner vapors because it's high nic content to start with, and then has the tobacco and coffee flavors, which I think are perfect for somebody who's trying to quit, unless you really hate tobacco because you've either been diseased or you got lung issues or respiratory issues. You want nothing whatsoever to do with tobacco. You have other flavors. But, in vaping, Kevin, what do you think we have as far as flavors in the vaping industry today? 6,000, 7,000 different flavors? What do you think? What's your guess?
8,542 million. I don't even know.
It would be 8,542,000, not 8,540. You got that ass backwards.
It depends on who you ask.
I know. I'm kidding.
There's
but there's just so many different flavors, and there's just so many. We're going to talk about that tonight because that's what this show is going to be. And I love Mike Wittenberg, who puts on the National Vape Expo. And I've been a part of his shows for the last 3 or 4, events that he's had. Kevin, have you ever been to one of his?
No, never been to one ever. Not till Bowling Green.
I wish we had some sponsors for this show that could help pay you guys to come with me, Steve and Paul, get you over here from Australia. Because Paul's with us tonight too, by the way. Paul from LabWorks. Hello, Paul.
Hello. Good morning from Australia. G'day, David. G'day, Kevin. And g'day, Steve.
G'day. Hey. How you doing, mate?
Oh, here we go. You're going to try and pull off an Australian accent.
I love how you talk over in Australia. You shrimp on the bob.
I'm not even going to try. I'll let David.
I was over in Australia in 1993. I think I told you last episode. I was over there with your Simon Chapass.
Oh God!
Has he popped his head out of his ass yet?
No, but I've got an interesting photo of him hanging out with a few other idiots.
I think I know what you're talking about.
What's that?
Oh, really?
That wasn't
Tell
mine.
Us about it. Tell us about it.
Oh,
Is that the one with the dartboard?
Yeah, that bit of a dartboard happening there in the background, and
what is it?
that idiot Glance and Chapman.
McKee?
I think that they're. Yeah, I know. I think one of them's giving a reach around in the photo, but I don't know what's going on.
There's some memes going around.
Oh, there's quite a number of them.
There's just so much going on the vaping industry side, and all of the legislation with our own FDA and Scott Gottlieb, and all of the crap that we're hearing from our senators and Schumers and Dick Durbins and Blumenthal's and all the other ilk who are trying to just build these walls higher and higher and higher for smokers who are trying to save their own lives, and they can't. They're just taking it away and ripping it right away from them. And so, I mean, it's just global. Forget what we talked about with India. They're trying to ban it over there now, and I think they already have. Vaping is India's biggest problem. Yeah, there's no poverty. There's smog. The air quality is the worst in the world. Okay, and when I remember when Aaron Biebert went over there last year, when I was abandoned in
refused
Istanbul. They didn't abandon me. I stayed back because they wouldn't let me on the plane. Yeah, well, I had no other choice. But when they got there, I saw on the news, because I didn't have any TV other than what I told you, Project Runway and Say Yes to the Dress. Those are the only shows I was able to watch for 6 days straight that were on a loop. But when I did see some news, I could see that in India, when Aaron and his crew were there for the premiere of A Billion Lives, November, it was the day that the week that Trump got elected over here in November of 2016. And everybody was wearing masks. The air quality was so bad, and poverty and beggars and, just horrible, way of life. And now they're banning vaping in India because of, their moral indignation and the World Health Organization, which, is another, 10-hour show in by itself. And I'm not even going to go there. The reminder came this week that I returned my World Health Organization medal to India. I'm to Geneva, a few years back, which is why they wouldn't let me into New Delhi. And now I see that they gave the World Gold Medal of Honor to some other Indian doctor for his work in tobacco control and banning of vaping. So, it's probably my medal, the one I sent back to Margaret Chen, who was the executive director of the World Health Organization, when I sent it back and told her to shove it up her bum. And do you say bum over in Australia, Paul? Or do you say ass?
Yeah, we do, but
shove it up your Chapman.
Shove it up, shove it up your ass.
Okay, so you're pretty Presbyterian too over there, right? So
very much so.
Yeah, but anyway, these things were very nostalgic for me, as since this is the David G. Model Citizen podcast. I sit around and I think, how can I relate my history of being the Winston man and all that I know about with R.J. Reynolds from 1981 when I was hired to 1988 when I stopped doing the ads and they went to a different way after I quit smoking publicly, obviously, because after I quit, they don't call and we don't do lunch, and they really don't give a rat's ass about me anyway. So I'm trying to find ways that I can go back to what I did that was so horrible, enticing, encouraging, and luring kids to smoke, and now pay it forward. And I think that's while I was laying in the hospital for 4 days, I thought a lot about that, guys. I really did. I'm not BSing you. I thought about, what I did and the harm that I may have inflicted just by being guilty by association. I'm not saying people smoke because I was the sole reason why, advertising is just one of the reasons why people start to smoke. It certainly is not just advertising. That's a part of it, but it's also the peer pressure, and it's also, the kind of culture you're living in and your demographic and your geography where you live. And so I thought a lot about what am I going to do to make a difference with my podcast versus all the other ones like Smoke Free Radio, which is Demetrius and Phil and Bill Tarling up in Canada. And, you got Mike Peterson, who does a great job with his show, and he tries to, get information out there. And what the frig are we going to do to try to bring listeners into this, to hear something that's not only entertaining, but informational and educational, and causes people to pause and say, hey, what the fuck? What in the world we do to bring this to full circle and to fruition. And then I see what's happening in Australia, which is so much worse than what's happening over here. At least we have, 8,542 million flavors, right, Kevin?
Right. That's right.
Okay. But over in Australia, poor Paul, who owns LabWorks, and he's trying to, help people quit smoking because he knows the benefits of it. And I hear what he's been going through since Paul and I got to know each other in the last couple of weeks. And, he calls me or texts me and wants to talk. And we keep batting back and forth, the same shit. It's ping pong, the same shit tomorrow. It's like Groundhog Day, same shit, different day. And we have got to change that. And I don't know if Vape Radio or Smoke Free Radio or Grim Green Show or my show or anybody else's podcast, is going to make a difference unless we come under some banner, some umbrella that's going to say enough's enough, and we're going to have a movement. Because we don't have a movement right now. We have a bowel movement, I guess, but we don't have a real movement because we are being thrown under the bus every day, and it's not getting any better. And if we can see what's happening, if we can see what's happening in our government with fake news, and Russian collusion and all the other shit that's happening globally, and we are the people that we're the nation that people are supposedly looking up to, we're not leading the path, the pack here when it comes to vaping. But I think we're a hell of a lot better right now than what Paul is going through over in Australia. So do you see any light at the end of the tunnel, Paul, in Australia for the smokers who are really looking for a way to enhance their life and give up combustibles, or at least cut down with vapor and vaping as being an alternative? Do you see any improvement at all?
Look, the past couple of weeks there's been a little bit of a change. We've got a body over here called ATHRA, the Australian Tobacco Harm Reduction Association, headed up by Dr. Colin Mendelsohn, which hopefully in the next few weeks he's going to join us on the program. He's partnered up with Dr. Alex Wodak, Dr. Joe Kostrich, and Dr. Catherine Silsbury, and they're all harm reduction specialists. They're also general practitioners. They go through, talking to different people within the government, trying to get the word out that the studies are real, the science is there. Stop burying it. Stop listening to Mr. Chimpman, I should say. Not Chapman, Chimpman, and actually allow us to do what we've been doing by ourselves now for a few years. If we're going to get listened to, we need to get listened to at the federal level and let the government know that, we're not going away. We're trying to save our lives and trying to save others, but stop getting in our way and let us just do our job.
Is there any research going on over that's government funded on vaping? Are they doing anything at all with really, because everybody says we don't know the long-term effects. Is anybody studying it over there, or are you just relying on what happens with the Royal College of Physicians in UK or other parts of the globe?
No. Certain people within the government said, look, we're not going to allow nicotine liquids through until we do our own research. But again, that's going to be pseudoscience. I can see Chapman heading this up straight away. There's going to be other doctors there. Our health minister doesn't want to know about it. We've got political unrest here at the moment with our prime minister almost losing his job yesterday through another challenge. Money that has to come from the government to fund this study. But we don't really have the expertise here to conduct these studies or the research for that matter.
Well, you see, this is what I'm talking about, because we have these studies over here which are bogus and bullshit. Just for one example, we do know that researchers are being given $1.4 million to study the results of e-cig regulations on public health. They want to investigate that, and this seems like a lot of money to fund a study for information that almost any vapor could give them for free, about what the results of e-cig regs on public health do. Studies that we have, basically all they're doing is they're giving this $1.4 million out to study something that they already have the answers to, because more likely it's just a wolf in sheep's clothing, because they're more likely that the study will conclude that the FDA has issued careful, balanced regulations, that the states have been justifiably cautious, and that vape must be taxed and discourage teen youth. They're just using it to justify the decisions that they made already because the script was written. That's how the strategy is working. And that's what any research, if it's not done fairly and properly, that's why I ask you, Paul, because if you're just going to do studies that are going to be, financed and funded by people like Simon Chapman and your prime minister and all the other, ilk, that is trying to just take away the popularity of funds coming to the trough because of tobacco taxes. I know your tobacco is very expensive over there. It just seems like we just keep spinning our wheels and we just keep talking the same shit over and over and over again. Like I said, same shit, different day. So I think that this podcast and what I'm trying to do and what Dave G, Model Citizen, is trying to do with the help of Steve Mathis, my producer, the guy who knows technological stuff, and Kevin Crowley. And I'm patting you guys on the back because I can't do this without you. So I'm looking for any kind of criticism, constructive or destructive, to say, hey, you're not doing it the right way. I got to find a way to get this information out there. And I don't want to die doing it. I don't want to be, assaulted because I've said something. I want to say the truth. I want to tell the truth, and I don't want the truth to be ridiculed, and then I don't want it violently opposed, and then I don't want the third where somebody else takes credit for it because they know I'm right. I've been predicting this since 2011, 2012. Crowley, who came into my life, 2014.
Yep.
I've been predicting the same thing, and people just aren't listening, okay? And I've gotten to the point where I'm so sick and tired of hearing the same stuff from people like Paul, who's alone over there. He's isolated. He's got his crew over there that, are banding together to try to find ways. That's why I want to be so involved in Australia, because I think there's a possibility that we can make a difference, just like they did in New Zealand, where they repeal some of the bad laws that are being made by bad people. And I want to get over in Australia. I want to take my e-liquid line over there to David G down under. I want to be able to get my CBD over there to help people, who want to improve the health of their life without government intervention and without government control. Certainly, I want government regulation on products that are ingested into the body. Certainly, I want to know it's safe. And certainly, I want it to be fairly taxed to where it's reasonable, to where the government can see the benefits and then put their money that they're making into research to show that it can now be grown exponentially based on the good replicatable science and data and research. Because right now, they're using only the data and research that affects their bottom line. They're fudging it. They're fraudulent. They're made up. They're paid for. So if people want to know the truth about what's really happening, not only here in the U.S. or Canada or Indonesia or Australia, people need to listen and they need to act. And I know we're distracted with horrible things every day when you get on the computer, turn on the TV. But that's why I rely on you guys, Kevin and Steve and Paul, and now, of course, Kevin Lacey from Pinnacle, who I just love his product. I use it. I endorse it. I put my name on it. My platform is my image and my reputation. And it's the same thing with e-liquid. So you guys are going to share in this with me because I can't do it without you. And Paul,
you know what you just did?
What?
You just changed my mind on the tax. I've been opposed other than normal sales tax. I will amend that by agreeing with you if it's only used for further research. That's it.
That's it. That's it.
You just changed my mind.
I think people would go along with that if we could, but we all know the government is full of shit. We know that we have rhinos in there and it's not going to change. So what do we have to do? We have to do something dramatic. We have to do something civil disobedient. We have to, and I want to do it in Australia. Paul, I know you're ready to be disobedient in the civil fashion, as am I. I mean, we don't have to be obnoxious and rude in the Antifa. We don't have to wear masks. We don't have to hit people over the head, but we can certainly be loud and stand up to Simon Chapman. And I would love a debate with Simon Chapman. Kevin was given the responsibility to get me a debate with Matt Myers, and you haven't come through for me. You haven't come through,
trying.
Kevin.
I'll ask him in the morning.
Matt Myers, I think I was telling you guys the first week I quit smoking back in 1988, Matt Myers and Cliff Douglas brought me down to Washington, D.C., and they told me that what was going on is that there was going to be a big stink made with the Tobacco Institute, which was run by Walker Merriman, Surgeon General C. Everett Koop, because he was looking for a smoke-free class of 2000, and all this money was going to be coming in from the American Cancer, American Lung, American Heart. They didn't even have the American Legacy Foundation or Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids yet. It was just beginning at the exact same time when taxes started to rise in California with Prop 99. National Cancer Institute and the CDC were being able to do studies with demographics, in different parts of the United States, like cities that would be demographically, logistically similar to, say, Houston, Texas. And, same number of people per capita and same lifestyle, blue collar worker, 40%, white collar worker, 30%. So all these things were going on in 88 and 89 and 90. And I was a part of this. And I started to talk to Matt Myers and Cliff Douglas, and because these guys were fairly young then too. These guys, we're going back to 88 and that's 30 years ago. And that's when they were really, I honestly think that they were intent in doing the right thing. I don't think there was a bad bone in Matt Myers' body or Cliff Douglas's or any other health educator. I think they were what they were taught. And I believe they really had an interest in public health. And I know that Matt's a lawyer, and I know Cliff Douglas was a lawyer, and they needed jobs, and they found that kind of like a public health educator. You don't make any money, but you get to wear a nice suit and you get a title and a card and a briefcase, and then you go out there and into the community and the schools and you try to do intervention on drugs and alcohol and condoms and safe sex. These guys, I do believe, were and started out with great, wonderful intentions. But like most things, even in our own industry, we have some vaping industry leaders that, I wouldn't give you 2 cents for. We have some vape industry leaders that are doing it strictly for the money, and they don't give a rat's ass about who smokes or who doesn't smoke, who vapes, who doesn't vape. They just want, greed outweighs fear. And it happens in every area of life, in every walk of life, I think. And I think that when Cliff and Matt Myers, who was and of course Stanton Glantz, the asswipe that he is, he and our friend Simon Chapman, Paul's buddy over there, I think they all went to the same school of stupid. And I don't think they ever had families. I don't think that they've ever were a teenager, doesn't know what teens do and the stupid things that they do. But I'll repeat it again. Smoking is the only thing that a teenager is held accountable for the rest of his or her life until they get diseased and die. And nobody gives a shit. And everything else in this world has changed and progressed. Everything has progressed. Everything's new and improved except tobacco. There's been no change to tobacco. There's been no reduction of carcinogens. There's still 4,762 chemicals, gases, poisons, irritants, vapors, and pesticides. The same shit that affected Paul Blamire. Paul, you had emphysema? Paul?
I still have emphysema. But
okay, yeah, but and how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 49 in a couple of weeks.
49, and you have 2 small children?
Yeah, I've got 2 daughters.
Yeah. Okay. So my point is 93% of smokers start as teens. They're still doing it. And forget the juuling thing. I don't even want to talk about it. It makes me puke. The juuling epidemic and the pandemic and all that. I'm over it. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to find a way that people are going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to wake up. I'm going to listen to people. I'm going to read about it. I'm going to research it. I'm not going to look for a sound bite or a snippet from a paid media source where they're getting a paid press release from Matt Myers or Cliff Douglas. So my point is people change based on greed. And I think Matt Myers and Cliff Douglas and Cheryl Heaton and all the people that started out with probably good intentions, even in the health communities, even up in Massachusetts with Greg Conley, not our Greg Conley, but Greg Conley, who ran the Department of Health in Massachusetts. I think they're not bad people. I just think that they got swayed and sidetracked and they got influenced by, the power that they were given. Just like I did. I had power. I had power, being the Winston man and the golden boy for the anti-tobacco movement for 15 years. Anything I said was listened to by the media, even though it was prompted by Cancer, Lung and Heart, CDC, AMA, and NCI.
Let me ask you
and
a
of
question,
course,
Dave.
what?
Right. You were mentioning that earlier. How do you think you sold more cigarettes as on one hand as the Winston man or through anti-tobacco? You know what I mean? I think
when you have your natural, increase of people smoking. Number one, you got to look at the facts, and the facts is kids are going to be kids are going to be kids are going to be kids. Okay. There's nothing you're going to do to stop a 13, 14, 15, 16 or 17-year-old who wants to rebel, who has peer pressure, who wants to be grown up, mature and responsible. And at the same time, people have been telling them since they were 5, 6 or 7 to grow up, be mature and be responsible. Smoking becomes that automatic gateway. I think I was very influential in getting boys to become smokers between 13 and 17, but no more than the Marlboro Man or no more than Newport Alive with Pleasure, no more than the Smoking Joe Camel. I believe that when you do what we Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids is doing with Juul, like you bring up so eloquently every week, Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids is doing more for Juul than Juul could ever do with a $25 million ad campaign. Okay. They have done everything in a very, very open-minded way, and that is to blame Juul for their failures for 30 years in tobacco control where they missed the bullseye. So that's what the problem is. And as I said, any study they do, any calculation as to what good they're doing in the community, okay, the more likely the studies and the research and the data will conclude that the FDA has issued careful, balanced regulations based on those lies, okay? And that the states are justifiably concerned and over cautious, thinking that vaping must be taxed in order to stop it. It's not going to stop it. Never. Heroin addicts do not negotiate for the price of heroin.
Nope.
Fentanyl, they just don't negotiate. You pay the going rate. It's not going to change. Do some people quit smoking when taxes are raised like Manhattan and New York, where it's $14 for a pack of cigarettes? In other parts of the country where cigarettes are $4 a pack, like in Virginia or So the whole answer to your question is, I think it's a combination, but I think more people start smoking as teens when we know 93% start as teens. I don't think R.J. Reynolds or Philip Morris or Lorillard has to spend another dollar on advertising because kids are still going to do what kids are going to do. They binge drink. They practice unsafe sex. They bully. They text and drive. They're obnoxious. They're arrogant. They're pissants. And then we teach them from the time they're 3 years old to 10, 11 or 12, not to curse and be polite and yes, ma'am, and thank you. And that works for a while until their peers take over. And now it's more environmental than biological. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think, Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids and what I did as the Winston man going into schools, trying to get kids to never start smoking. I think my method, which is what pisses me off so much that the vaping industry has never brought me in to do what I wanted them to do and trying to get kids to number one, not vape, but also
Right.
encourage adults who want to quit smoking anyway. So that's what makes me angry, that I go in there and I used entertainment, I use humor. I was the George Carlin. I've seen over 5 million kids in schools, middle schools and high schools all across the world, including Australia, Paul, when I went into Melbourne and then into Perth and Sydney and Cambria. And I did this because I was good at it. I showed kids that, smoking and mountain climbing don't go together. Smoking and alive with pleasure really isn't the case when you're 49 years of age and you get COPD or emphysema, or you die like my brother did, or you die like so many people do at 1,200 a day in the U.S. And I don't know how many people die in Australia. Was it 56, 66 a day over in Australia?
No, the official figures now of 54 people per day. So times that by 365.
Yeah. So you're up there too, and you're spread out a little bit more. So Kevin, to answer your question, and Steve, if you're listening, and if you're hearing this, I would like you to make me repeat this every time I do the show. When you have a teenager who starts smoking, because this is how it is, okay? You're not going to stop a kid from texting and driving. You're not going to stop a kid from practicing unsafe sex or binge drinking at parties or drinking keggers and getting in trouble and driving drunk and DUI. It's just not going to stop. Okay. If we can't, stop a kid from drinking and driving at 16 or 17, and then you see them wind up dead. My daughter's a mortician and she sees young people dying all the time. It's not just necessarily from car crashes, but it's from the stupidity of opioid addiction and the culture. Okay. So the combination of everything has to be looked at when these asshole senators and congressmen and lawmakers and people like Chapman over in Australia have to remember that kids are going to be kids. And we need to address that. We need to talk to them just the way I'm talking to the adults. Let these kids know that there's consequences to everything, but don't do it with pictures of black lungs and clogged arteries and the tobacco control movement, because you know what? I don't think a pink lung is attractive.
It didn't work for me.
Didn't work for me, and it doesn't work for the 1,200 people who start every day to replace those who quit or die every day. So I think that's what angers me the most, is that, this industry, the vaping, which is the benefits of vaping, just like the benefits of CBD, and hopefully we won't have to go through this with CBD, since it is legal, as long as it's under the 0.3% THC factor. And then of course you got the assholes that are spiking it and making it miserable for everybody else. But Kevin's going to address that, Kevin Lacey and Jessica Lacey, next week on the show. But I do believe that people like Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and myself made the problem worse by going out and preaching against it. But then again, I was using their script, but I was using my technique to get the information to them. So I was just as bad, and I was just as brainwashed, and I was just perpetuating the myths, because I was being paid to do it and I didn't know any better. So,
Right. Yeah.
but now we do. Now as a grown up, I think about dying a lot more now that I'm 68 years of age than I did when I was 14, 15, or 16. And that's what I was trying to present to you guys in the film, A Billion Lives, that 2% of vapors saw and maybe 1% of the general public saw. I don't know. I don't know the numbers, and I haven't talked to Aaron about it, but I do know that, the foundation that he's working with right now, the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World, and the series of films that he's making now globally to show the epidemic of tobacco. And we're just repeating the same thing that we've known since, Surgeon General Luther Terry in 1964 said publicly, smoking kills. I mean, how much more handwriting on the wall do you have to have? There's no suspicion. There's no speculation. It's just the fact. Smoking kills. So now vapors aren't smoking. They're not getting the chemicals and gases. They're getting 5 ingredients, probably a little more, when you look at the combination through synergy, even if it's heated, not burning. I don't know, but I do know that it's now they're saying it's 97% safer. And everything I've read this week, Kevin, would you agree with that? That you've read the same thing that I've read, that people are saying?
What I'm going to say is 99%, 99 point something.
Okay.
I've been arguing about that off and on, not arguing, discussing. Carl Phillips has a blog about how wrong we are at 95%. They picked a number they stuck with it, and the community went, yeah, 95, but it's even less. It's 99% or even more if you want to look at it that way. It's very, very, very minimal compared to smoking. Yeah.
Well, you know it, and I know it, and that's what we talk about every time we talk about the Truth Campaign and the lies that they're creating and the myths. And it's just so frustrating.
These guys are nuts.
Well,
I'm going to read a quote. The Truth Foundation, this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to quote Paul Barnes from Facts Do Matter in the UK. His blog was, "The truth shall set ye fret." Excuse me. So I guess the old saying, quote, "a lie can run around the world before the truth has got its boots on," applies to the shenanigans being propagated by the Truth Initiative. Totally disgraceful, utterly without shame, pure hubris, it's a new word on me, and thoroughly sanctimonious codswallop. I like that. Mm-hmm. That's what he gave us. I love Paul.
Well, this whole thing here is absurd because we've had 10 years, and this is addressed to Paul over in Sydney. We've had 10 years of exaggerating the mythical dangers and, of course, the underplaying of the benefits that millions of people would find useful in prolonging their life. And at least we can say it out loud, and I can say it, and no one's blocked me or Kevin or Steve yet. Paul, I know that you've been blocked from social media when you try to bring these same things up that are happening there. Is that still happening to you? Are you still being blocked every turn?
Yeah, pretty much. I've had posts removed recently. Photos I've had asked to be removed, but I still won't do it. I'll find another avenue or a platform to actually do it from. But going back and me being a liquid maker, even with like the nastiest of nasty, like concentrates that are out there, in a liquid there's around 12 different components. But in comparison to a cigarette, but you remove the nicotine, you back at 10 components. It's not going to hurt you. There's no way in the world.
Paul?
Yeah.
Paul, you're a chemist. You've got degrees.
I've studied chemistry, yeah.
Right. And I want to make sure the audience understands that. You're not just some other guy. You're knowledgeable.
I'm very well knowledgeable in this. And I sit here every day of the week creating liquids, and I know what's in each of my components. All the way down like MSDS sheets. I know if there's something good or bad in said concentrate. If there's something bad, I won't use it. I'll find something else to replace it. So yeah, I do sit here and I do formulate liquids for a living. That's what I do. That's all I do. And David, with your signature series and the Down Underline, I'd love to get you over here, and then I'd love to work with you one-on-one to actually expand your line to find things that people want to vape here, and we'll help them stay off the stinkies, as we call them.
Well, and we're committed to do it, Paul. I swear to God, we are committed to do this. This is not a BS show where I'm just going to throw smoke your way or vape your way to let you know that, this is entertainment. No, this is about, what I need to do at this stage of my life, because I'm pretty much over being the nice guy. I don't give a shit what people think about me anymore. I'm above the level of caring what people think about me anymore. I'm going to do the right thing for the right reasons. And again, I have enough friends in this industry that will tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm screwed up, I'm obnoxious and arrogant. I've never tried to be, but I'll tell you what, I'm pretty well fed up. I'm starting to get arrogant. And I'm pretty well fed up with the likes of Maura Healey, who I guess is the Attorney General of Massachusetts. Kevin, you've heard about her, right?
Yep.
And she's investigating Juul for getting kids to start smoking. Where the frig has she been? Okay. People have been getting kids to start smoking. Okay. Not vaping, but smoking since I can remember. I'm 68, so it's been out there. They're using this as an excuse under the guise that they really care when they really don't care. All they're doing is they are, with the tiki torch, mobs, aggressive attitude. And since they failed in tobacco control, which they all have, every state, other than in taxes and clean indoor air and, tobacco 21, that's making headlines because you can go kill somebody in Afghanistan and Iraq, but you can't at 18, but you can't buy a pack of cigarettes. And that's a dilemma that I'm facing, because I would love to see nobody smoke cigarettes. I would love nobody, just ban the shit, but they won't,
I'm going to give you a snippet on the ProPublica blog about the tobacco bonds, Massachusetts number 5.
Yep.
In receipts, 282 million in 2014. They spend 1.4% of that $282 million on prevention. 1.4%.
And they probably spend less on access to cessation products, which,
right.
And if vaping ever becomes a cessation product that's going to be run by the government, because that's what they're going to. That's where they're going with this. They're going to start getting, prescriptions for, vaping liquid containing nicotine. That's where we're headed by 2022. And if the vaping community doesn't wise up, if they don't get off their ass and just start expecting the same 2% of the people to do 100% of the work, you can kiss vaping goodbye, because the third part of the truth analogy of first being ridiculed, secondly being violently, I keep saying this every week, because it's so important that people, Steve, you've heard me say this so many times, we could dance to it. It's ridiculed, and then it's violently opposed, and then it's accepted. And that's where we're at. They're starting to accept it. Even American Cancer, even they're cautiously optimistic, saying that vaping is a better alternative if you can find no other way to quit. So, and that's where they're heading. And that's why everybody is now looking at Big Tobacco, who's taken over with Views and Blue and Mark 10. And of course, my Blue, which used to be the Von Earl that I represented and was the face of for a long time. So I think tonight, all I want to do, without getting into a rant, and I know, Phil Basardo and Demetrius have the corner on ranting because they're so good at it, and they make so much sense, and they get a good listening, a following for people. But then it just pisses people off, but we give them no hope. I want to give people hope. That's the difference. I just don't want to rant and bitch and complain. I want to give people hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think we can find it, guys. I think we are finding it, but we got to do it, a little bit more aggressively, maybe a little bit more regularly. But we can't do it without the sponsors and the big muckety mucks to say, hey, we support what you're doing. Here's a couple bucks to do it. Get out there, go over to Australia and make some controversy, be seen with people like Paul and the people he's working with to try to, circumvent the crap that's happening over there. But we can't do it without funds. And everybody says that, you can't do it without money. Well, you can't. I can't get to Australia. Paul can't come over here. You and I, Kevin, can't get together with Steve to come up with a strategy unless you have that's why I have an e-liquid line now. That's why I have a CBD flavored line, so I can have skin in the game, so I can have funds to get out there and do what has to be done and pay you guys for your participation, and not just to wing it and play games, because everybody loves to be a part of something. You guys are different than that. You guys want to be a part of something that's positive change, that's socially acceptable, and is going to politically set a new landscape and a new narrative for saving lives. And I don't know how much more important we can make this sound. This is not a game. I love Rod and Pablo. I love Scotty. I love the Vape Radio team who have their demographic, but I'm not doing Vape Radio anymore, because that's not who I'm trying to impress. Somebody who's already decided to quit smoking and vape, and now they love vaping as a culture and they're having fun with it. And you never see them without a mod in their hand, which is fine. I have my mod right here. I have my Odin. I have my Boulder. I have my Aspire. I have my Sword. I have the things necessary that I want to use to let people know that I believe in vaping as an alternative to, enhancing people's lives. So I think that what we need to do, and I'm not going to be on the show tonight long because I'm not feeling really that well. I got to do some visitation here with my family, but I just want this show tonight to be a precursor that, we got Pinnacle CBD, we got VapesGoneWild with my e-liquid, we got Steve, and we got Kevin, we got Paul, and now we're going to have Kevin Lacey and Jessica and several other guests like Colin, hopefully Mendelson, and maybe even Attila Danko, to where these people will be a part of our show and want to see us get information out there.
I've got a quick question for you guys. This one goes to both you, David, and to Kevin. Here in Australia, we know that, like, the NRT programs are really, really, really big. Johnson & Johnson Pacific run the Nicorette program here. And on the back of their packaging, okay, in the United States, it clearly states, not for use under the age of 18. Here, our packaging is a little bit different. It says use in adolescence under professional supervision only. And then it goes on to say, do not use if you're allergic to nicotine, and do not use if you're under the age of 12 years of age. What the hell?
Uh-huh.
And then on top of that, we have what's known as a value pack, 150 pieces of 2 milligram gum. So you're carrying around, get this, 300 milligrams of gum in your pocket. What the hell's going on? Hang on a second.
Wow.
I vape 3 milligram, Nick. That's about the size of it. And I've got at least 30, 40 devices sitting on my desk at the moment because, yes, I'm also a hobbyist in the vaping community. But when I see this crap from, Johnson & Johnson put out there, I'll send you the photos, Kevin, and you'll just be going, wow.
That nicotine is actually milked from unicorns. So that's the reason. It's safe.
Oh, really? Unicorns?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so they're farting nicotine now. Unicorns are farting nicotine. Okay.
Yeah.
Only for J&J. Only for Johnson & Johnson.
Well, everywhere you turn, guys, every day, I wake up in the middle of the night, I go online, I want to see what's going on because it's like roadkill. Sometimes you just have to look. Sometimes you just have to see what's happening out there, and then you get more. I'm pissed off at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning instead of waiting till 8 o'clock with a cup of coffee. Then I get pissed off. So I wake up all night and I'm angry and I've tossed and turned. Then I got to write a little note to somebody and tell them that I'm not interested in having them in my life anymore because you're a dick. So I just have got to stop that. I know it. I admit it. I feel bad about having to turn on people because I don't either agree with them politically or socially, or they're just idiots and, their heads up their ass and they just don't get it. And that I shouldn't be that way. I admit it. I know that. So I'm going to try to do better. So this podcast, this show, I don't care if it goes to where we get into arguments with people who want to come on and argue with me because I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I admit it, but if you're wrong, you better admit it or you're going to be held accountable. And I'm just so sick and tired of these stay out of jail free cards being passed around, free passes at every turn for people like this Maura Healey, the Attorney General in Massachusetts, all these scientists and regulators who took a Hippocratic oath to do no harm. And all they ever use in research is, that vaping can damage DNA. Well, how do you know that? We don't have any proof. Show us the facts. I barely got out of high school. I don't know this stuff. They're talking about mutations could be seen in the DNA. And then they use words like
in mice.
In mice, yeah. And then they say words like can and may and might and could and possibly.
Should and would.
I heard and should, supposedly. It's been stated, has shown possibly, what media says. Yeah. So until these scientists and these researchers and these statisticians can come up to people like me and you, Kevin, and Steve and Paul, especially over in Australia where you don't have the kind of help you need to get a foot in the door unless you do something that's going to be so ostentatious and arrogant and obnoxious that the media will jump all over you like holy on the Pope. But with people like me, who has a reputation for being at least truthful, because no one's ever sued me for lying and libel and slander because they know I'm right and they're wrong. Okay. But being right doesn't always mean you're going to win, especially with the kind of government we have, with the kind of public that we have, because there's so much dissension. I mean, you forget the Kardashians and forget about this horrible, murders of this family with a pregnant wife and 2 kids. And every minute there's distraction and there's all these issues and problems. But what we have to do is we have to raise the consciousness of people by saying, hey, people change. I've changed. You've changed, Kevin. Paul,
oh, yeah.
You have emphysema, and you're doing really well. Steve, you're still young. I have earwax older than you, buddy. But you're educable. You are somebody that can be educated, and maybe I can change your mind a little bit. I think I already have, as you've changed mine on how to be a little bit more politically, and technically savvy to reach these people.
I think it's.
But we're not going to change the rhinos.
Education, educated, sure. It's not so much I changed my mind. It's just I didn't even know, and that's the half the battle. I feel like from my perspective at least.
But what if you didn't know? What if you didn't know this, and somebody you never vaped really, or did you ever smoke cigarettes?
Nope.
I don't even know.
No, never touched a cigarette.
And if somebody smoked around you,
my parents did. I grew up around it.
So you had a bias probably because of it, right? As a young age.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen almost everyone I know ever failed to be a failed result of the DARE program in America, but I guess I was predisposed in the fact that I had asthma when I was younger. My family did it, and they made a conscious effort to not do it near me, and I realized it was harmful to me at another level. So I just never wanted to mess with that. But I mean,
but what was your attitude towards smokers as you got older, as you got into the workplace?
I mean, there's. It never really impacted me directly. I mean, I grew up in a time where it's been outlawed since I've been old enough to have those kind of opinions, it's been outlawed in most settings and except casinos. So I frankly just haven't had to deal with it that much. That being said, like seeing friends do it or seeing women do it has always been, frankly, like a turnoff to me if I'm being honest. So that, I mean, I've never had a good impression of it. It's never been something that's impressed me.
Okay, so my point is not that you weren't educated. You had an opinion, but
Correct.
It was based on a personal situation where you wouldn't go up to people and become an anti-smoking zealot and rip the cigarette out of their mouth and call them stupid.
Yeah, but
there's so many.
To prove your point, actually, I'm thinking about it a little bit more closely. No, people I probably judged a little bit harshly for something that they were basically brainwashed into doing by you and anyone else in the industry at the time. I shouldn't judge them as harshly because, frankly, it's not their fault. I mean, everyone, it's someone's choice at the end of the day. They chose to start it, but they were being fed a lot of bullshit that coerced them into doing so.
Yeah, well, I think everybody knows that. And this is where I thought about, I'm going to bring it to a close in a few minutes because I'm really excited about Australia. I'm really excited about doing something over there with my e-liquid line to help people and to create a ruckus with Paul and his people. And, and I'm still counting on Kevin for you to take a plane flight with me. Yeah, I know you hate flying. Steve, you got to go. And Kevin, and we'll just drug you. We'll give you, something, the Ambien or
nicotine, maybe nicotine.
That's not good. Unless we can get you addicted to flying. I do think Australia is my next place to go because of Paul and plus my personal relationship that I had with Simon Chapman and the damage that he's doing over there and the influence he has on the government of Australia and what's happening. And if there's any glimmer of hope with what Paul's saying and what I've been hearing is that people are starting to change their mind. I think I can change people's mind a little bit if I'm given the opportunity because I'm not a horrible person. And I do have a personality and I do have a reputation. And I am, of course, David G. modeled citizen who has a past. Okay. But I'm going to take my past, learn from it, and pass it on to the people that I believe can help, the citizens of every country. But right now we have to concentrate on Australia and the U.S. I don't know where we are in the U.S. as far as how I can help anymore. I'm going to Richmond, Virginia this weekend. For the National Vape Expo, and there's going to be a lot of the same people with business to business trying to sell new products. They're going to be trying to be innovative when they're not supposed to be. I know things are changing with the FDA where we can introduce some new devices, but not necessarily e-liquids. I can't keep up with it. But I'll know more this weekend as to what's happening with a lot of our bigger players and, somebody who's going to distribute my e-liquid, but I am committed to getting it over in Australia and the David G line down under and compete with some of our friends that are over there already, working with other labs and, packaging and co-packaging. And I want Paul to do that for mine with my guys here in the U.S. and in Atlanta, Georgia. So things are progressing, but in the same time, while we're progressing to have skin in the game, to get funds to continue our work, we've got to remain vigilant and trying to keep smokers as our frame of reference here, and the new vapors who should have access to these wonderful products that I know and you know and everybody who's vaping knows. We are not anecdotes. We are people who have a reason for doing what we do, and we have a reason for continuing to fight for helping people we care about. So I'm committed. As you all know, we're 58 minutes into this program tonight. I'm not going to carry it on any longer because I'm going to get angry, and I don't want to get angry anymore. I've said this every time I've been on this podcast. I don't want to be angry anymore. So let's hear what you have to say, Kevin. What's going on real quick in this week with our friend Duncan?
Oh, Duncan had
Duncan Hunter.
I guess I gotta throw a real serious name out with Demetrius and Smoke Free Radio. I'm pretty sure I listened to this specific broadcast with him stating that the Duncan Hunter bill wasn't going to go. He had some charges on him, and people are looking at him now. He's been charged with hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card campaign purchases, like vacations, dental works, things like that.
Well, hold that thought. Just for people who don't know, Duncan Hunter was the congressman in California down by San Diego, correct? And he's the one that vaped publicly in the congressional hearings.
Yep, in the hearing itself.
That's who Duncan Hunter is. That's who we're talking about, in case you don't know. So he has been indicted, Kevin? Is that what you're telling me?
Is being indicted, right. Yeah. So that's ethics aren't important. And they gave Demetrius a lot of crap for that. And we're not supposed to talk about it. You're supposed to be positive. Well, people need to know the truth first. And
sure,
Demi, if you love him or hate him, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But he's going to tell the consumer the truth. He's going to give his opinion. He clearly states it. And I'm glad he did. So vindication on his part without even asking.
Duncan Hunter. So we can't win for losing. We can't lose for winning. I mean, okay.
And I really liked Hunter's take on what he was going to try to do. Another thing,
me too.
The CDC in 2015, remember kids, this is 2018, they did a study at a vape shop, and it literally says through vaping.com, e-cigarette forum, vaping.com, that when they did this, they realized that there is really no harm. What they said was, we evaluated concerns about exposure to vaping-related chemicals in a vape shop. Exposure to flavoring chemicals were all below occupational exposure limits. That is huge. Why haven't we heard about this until now? That was 2015.
Jeez.
Right. So 3 years later, we're playing tiddlywinks with Juul, and this is serious stuff, which is what I want to know as a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
I brought this up before with Carl Phillips. He told me to pound sand, basically. But this, you go to a vaping convention, what a great place to do that. At least they did this in a shop. So that's huge to me.
Well,
huge news for the consumer.
Here's some news just in from Australia. After yesterday, when our Prime Minister nearly got upended by an absolute idiot here, Peter Dutton, a lot of the ministers that followed suit trying to overturn the government have now stepped down. So, David, it looks like we're not going to be speaking to Minister Greg Hunt anymore, the health minister. He's just stepped down.
About that.
Yeah.
This is fucking unbelievable. There's a whole list of ministers that have just stepped down. They've all put in their resignations to the government. And one of the top...
Literally today?
When did this happen?
An hour ago.
You're kidding.
No, an hour ago.
So maybe Chapman will have dinner at Red Lobster with you, Dave.
No.
Holy
This
smokes.
means that we can drive the knife in so hard now, right? This has changed the whole landscape of what could go down here within the next few weeks.
All right. Well, we're going to have to stay on top of this one because this is breaking news that I wasn't even anywhere slightly aware of.
Well, it's
Me neither.
10:57 a.m. Australian time, so less than an hour ago this went down.
And it's public knowledge,
Yeah,
right?
it's all. I've got the list of all the senators here. Health Minister Greg Hunt, Trade Minister Steve Cobio, Human Service Minister Michael Keenan, Law Enforcement and Cybersecurity, I can't pronounce his name, Citizenship Minister, International Development Minister, Assistant Treasurer. Wow. Game over.
Wow.
Game over.
Wow. So what do we do? What's our next step over there?
Now I just got to see who's going to be put in place of Greg Hunt, like the health minister. He said not on his watch. Well, see you later, Greg. You're a dickhead anyway. You're gone. So now let's open the floodgates. I'm going after the government today.
Okay. All right. Well, this is wonderful news. You made my day.
It's no longer his watch.
That's right. Well, we need to follow up on this in the next day or two. We may be doing another podcast in a couple days. We don't have to do this once a week. We can do it whenever we want, and that's the beauty of our technology now. So whatever comes in the next day, Paul, keep me posted. There's a lot, and maybe you and I could do something on Zoom with Kevin if Steve's not available. Sure. You know, because you guys are doing this. You guys are doing this. Out of the kindness of your heart for the time being. And I can't thank you enough for what you're doing to help me. And I'm there for you guys as you are for me. So whatever we can do to get together, I don't care if it's on the podcast here with Bringer or if it's on the podcast with something else or Zoom or YouTube. Let's get some information out there. Let's keep it short and sweet, to the point, and truthful, factual, corroborated. And I think maybe we can make a difference and talk about things that people may be interested, because this is huge. You know, this is actually huge. So I'm so glad that you're on with us tonight, Paul, sharing this with us, because I see light at the end of the tunnel now.
I'm dumbfounded. Since yesterday, the last 24 hours here politically have been absolute turmoil. But now that the list of everyone that has handed their resignations to the Prime Minister, this is absolutely huge. Huge.
Well, somehow we should take advantage of it now. You know, right now. Well, you know, with the landscape the way it is.
He has to appoint a new health minister within the next 24 hours. Who he's going to put in that job, I have no idea. But if it's someone that's even partially on our side, this could be the time to strike and say, well, hang on a second. Let's just completely upend all your studies that you wanted to do, and let's just go with the science and just say, look, enough is enough. Let us do what we want to do here. Give us our liquids with nicotine in it. Game over.
Well, that would be nice if I could just get the resignations over here of Dickie Blumenthal and Dickie Durbin and Chuck Schumer and, Nancy Pelosi and all these people over here, and even Republicans. You know, I've even seen Republicans, looking like schmucks too over here too on the vaping side, because they're just sheep. They're just following. They're bleeding sheep. Following where the money trough is. So, but that's awfully good news to hear that that Greg Hunt, his wife, going to leave where she's at. Isn't his wife involved with a conflict of interest with some health?
No, that's actually the Prime Minister's wife. The Prime Minister's wife. Okay. His wife is actually sitting on a board of Biopharma, but get this, one of their big drugs that they brought forward is called Gardasil, which is an anti-cancer drug for women. And everything that she works on, it's in the cancer departments. So that, to me, is a conflict. Some of the other drugs that they work on go towards lung cancer and other forms of cancer, breast cancer. But look, she can be dealt with now, because for where I'm sitting, I actually see a new election coming up very, very shortly. That could
Well, I'll
happen.
tell you what. Yeah. Let me tell you, this show that we do here sometimes takes off in different tangents because there's just so much going on. And there's just so much, negative and so much naysayers and fear mongering. And sometimes we get into that. And when I would rather the show be a lot more positive, like you just introduced here. So I think the positive side to this is that, yes, we need to talk about the bad stuff. You do 99 things right. Nobody knows. You do one thing wrong. Everybody knows. There's so many more wonderful things about vaping and tobacco harm reduction, and otherwise we wouldn't be here. And the people of Australia and other countries where the World Health Organization is trying to ban in 180 countries, and it's just so foolish and it's so nonsensical. I think that this is a time where I would love to stand shoulder to shoulder with Colin Mendelsohn and Attila Danko and you, Paul, and all the people that you can count on over there that see what it is you're trying to do to, help your humankind as we are here. So that's the positive side of the David G. Model Citizen Program.com, DavidGModelCitizen.com, because that's what I want to do. I want to do positive, not just bitching, complaining, ranting and raving, screaming and yelling and giving away shit. All I want to do is educate, inform, and also do it with a way that's going to put a smile on your face where you could say, aha, those aha moments that we all need. Well, I think we got a ton of them, Kevin. I think you have a ton of them in what it is you present every week in Vaping News. A lot of aha moments that we just need to get people to read. And I said something today. I think I heard it maybe. I guess this big thing with Trump is that truth isn't the truth. And then people are using it. Well, Trump's prison isn't prison. Yeah, well, truth isn't truth until the public believes it. And the public's not going to believe it unless they see it. And if they see it within their own personal lives, then truth becomes heir apparent. Because what I did a year ago, I don't remember. So it may be taken out of context if I talk about it tomorrow. I might have believed what I said a year ago, but now I maybe have changed some of the wording to where it's taken out of context. There is no taking out of context with vaping. It is what it is. 95% safer, 99% safer, 97. I don't care if it's 10% safer. If it's 10% safer, then it should be embraced as a tobacco harm reduction product to help people get off of combustible tobacco.
Yes.
So we will continue to do this. We will continue to do what I say I want to do. And I say it all the time. And I'm all for, I really am. I am all for, higher taxes if it's going to be used, to do more research. Okay. I am all for shipping restrictions. I am all for, zoning, having access in areas where kids can't get them. Labeling. I know it's very important. Flavor ban. Nah, not so much. Media misrepresentations. Absolutely. They need to be held accountable too. Government interference, government overreach has got to stop, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I'll finish the show with, they have spent 10 years exaggerating, meaning public health, anti-tobacco, big pharma, big tobacco. Everybody's been exaggerating the mythical dangers and the underplaying of the benefits. And that's what we need to battle. They keep doing it. We need to stop it. We need to bring out the benefits that millions of people here and in Australia and other countries need to hear it. So let's continue to do what we do, guys. Let's continue to talk about it. Let's get some sponsors. Let's get some people to support what it is we're trying to do. Let's get over to Australia. Let's go to where we need to be. If it's not on radio, if it's in person, we need to sit down with the new people over there that you can get us to see, to, maybe help educate the people in your country, Paul. I want to do it. So stick with us. All right. You're a part of the team. I'm going to ask you to join our group. Steve, have Paul on our group so he knows what's going on, and keep us all posted and in the loop. And let's see what we can do in the next couple of days to get any emails that do come in, any questions or concerns that people have. Let's try to get them answered, and let's get this thing kicked off and launched the way we wanted to do it 3 or 4 weeks. 3 or 4 weeks ago. I know we're a little behind because of my surgery. Time to catch up, play catch up,
and stop getting thrown
Let's
under
play
the bus, guys.
let's play catch up
Sounds good.
and let's play whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole. I'm good at that. Nobody can beat me in whack-a-mole. Nobody can beat me in whack-a-mole. You ask my wife and kids. I go to these carnivals. It's the first place I go to, and nobody can touch me. So, guys, next week I'm really looking forward to discussing the benefits of CBD. I really am, because it's just a great product. I want everybody to know that when we talk about next week, we're going to have Kevin Lacey explain full spectrum CBD hemp oil. And what full spectrum really means, which is basically hemp oil refers to when the pure oil is extracted from the hemp. It contains all the same cannabinoids and compounds found in the original hemp plant. I don't know what I just said, but I know I believe it because it works. Kevin will be able to explain it. Jessica will be able to explain it. We'll talk about CBD. We'll talk about my e-liquid line for vapors with high nic content down to low nic content with good flavors that are going to help people quit smoking and transition to vaping when and if they ever are ready, with a good pod device or whatever they want to use. Go to a good local brick and mortar store that's reliable, reputable, and is a member of the organizations, whether it be CASA or SAFADA or AVA or VTA. I don't care what you join. Join something, do something, get off your ass and be a part of something greater than what we are. So guys, thanks for being with us tonight. Looking forward to seeing you next week, talking to you. Any questions you have, write them into the email, and we'll get back to you whenever we can. Have a great night, and keep vaping.